Ekam akharam hridi nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate katham. Hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam tram yaham iti sakshat atmarupena bhakti hृदि विषमनसा स्वचिन्वता चता चलनलो आत्मनिष्ठो भवतु। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशक्तिसमये सिद्धा न सद्धा युत कुतो दृष्टा निष्ठा सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः विभाति स्वयं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। The topic Self Enquiry and Mandukya Upanishad came up because in our Satsangs on Ullad Narpade, we were coming upon Mandukya Upanishad once again and finding the connection between the teachings in Ullad Narpade of Ramana Maharshi and Mandukya Upanishad. My own connection with the teachings in Mandukya Upanishad, and you can surely not expect any expert dealing of the Mandukya Upanishad itself. The Upanishad, as you know, is one of the shortest or the shortest Upanishad recommended by Rama to Anjaneya Swami as the lone Upanishad which is enough to take one to Mukti. However, there is a Karika by Gaudapad Swami, who is the Guru of Adi Shankara, and there is a Shankara Bhashya and subsequent Bhashyas on Shankara Bhashya. So, what is a 12-verse Upanishad? You will find that some of the speakers have had to give 110, 200 lectures on the Upanishad of just 12 verses. So definitely this evening satsang, we are not going to go into the depths and the width of the coverage in the Upanishad. My own connection with Mandukya Upanishad started in 2005, where when I used to stay in Tiruvannamalai, and I would visit the ashram morning 4 o'clock onwards. The meditation hall will be open, and I would go there to practice self-enquiry. There used to be this person called Maruti, quite appropriately as Rama has instructed Anjaneya. Now the connection is coming that his name was Maruti, and he was meditating on the Mandukya Upanishad in detail. He was with a group of people. He was from Chamarajpet, Bangalore, but staying in Tiruvannamalai. And we happened to meet in the common mess, which is called as Sadhuvam Swami mess. We used to meet at the time of breakfast. So while coming back, he would say some learnings from Mandukya Upanishad, and I would respond from talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Because along with self-enquiry, I used to, whenever the self-enquiry was not going on, I would be reading talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, and I would be responding to his statements from the Mandukya with Bhagavan's responses to his questioners in the talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. And he would say that this is practically implementation of Mandukya Upanishad. What you are saying, you are saying exactly what we are all studying and researching. And how are you able to do that? Have you studied Mandukya in depth? And I would confess my ignorance. And he would say, this is exactly the practical implementation of Mandukya. And therefore, my own interest in Mandukya Upanishad came in, and a book quite appropriately by a foreigner on the Mandukya Upanishad, laying out the details, came to me, and I could go through. And there was the Ramakrishna Ashram book on the Mandukya Upanishad with the Karika and the commentary by Adi Shankara, the Bhashya. But then the connection with self-enquiry is so close that many of the traditional Vedantists, when asked to teach about self-enquiry, they will give a narrative of the contents of Mandukya Upanishad. By narrating the contents and the depths of Mandukya Upanishad, they will point that this is what self-enquiry is. So today what we are going to do is get some connection between the self-enquiry practice that we have been discussing for many satsangs with the contents in Mandukya Upanishad, and what new light in which we can see the meditation so that our own self-enquiry is deepened, so to say. That is the aim of this particular talk, that our own practice of self-enquiry, we get more clarity and more depth with the meditations on the contents of the Mandukya Upanishad, but more with reference to Ulladu Narpadu. That Mandukya I will refer as, these are the contents there, but then I'll be referring to the verses from Ulladu Narpadu, which give us the parallel. I will not be going too much into the Karika or the Bhashya. but stay with the main verses and not even the verses on the meditation on Omkara. The contents regarding the waking, dream, deep sleep, and Turiya. This is what we will be referring to from Mandukya Upanishad, and we'll be focusing on the idea of Ishwara in the Mandukya Upanishad, so that in our journey in self-inquiry, we have deeper understanding and practice it with the steadiness that we are being supported by the Ishwara Shakti, and we are identifying with the Ishwara Shakti while practicing. That is the aim of this particular talk. That is the connection I would try to make between practice of self-inquiry and the contents in Mandukya Upanishad. Briefly, a look at the contents of Mandukya Upanishad, not from the depths that the various Advaitic scholars have gone into it, but then with specific reference to what is the Ishwaratva or the Ishwara content in the Mandukya along with the Karika. Now, the teachings of Mandukya cover the whole of human experience. As a typical sadhaka would like to know, from the whole coverage of the human experience, by taking us through our experience as individual jiva in the three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. Mandukya Upanishad covers the whole samsaric experience, just bringing it close, apparently within a 24-hour cycle. How come our life, individual life, spans to 70 years, 80 years, less, more, and the life of this world is said to be 5 billion years old? There are said to be other dimensions, other lokas accepted by Vedanta in Taittiriya Upanishad and other Upanishads. There are various other dimensions, other lokas in which life is said to be present in lower or higher dimension than where we are. But then, how is all that brought into a 24-hour cycle? The whole samsara is taken as cyclical. How many hours you may have the yuga, how many years you may have the yuga running into, it is still cyclical. To get an idea of that kind of cyclicality of samsara, we can go to modern science, where there is this talk by Tom Chi, one of the co-founders of Google. He has given a talk which is available on the net. It is entitled "Everything is Connected." That we are all connected right from the Big Bang, and we are connected right now in the conscious and subconscious areas is the purport of his talk. But the portion I am going to refer to regarding the cyclicality of creation is where he talks about the whole creation at one point being made of atoms, and in atoms he takes the life of electrons and protons, and the current life of this universe is believed to be about 14 billion years. That means 14 into 10 power 9 years is the current life of this world. And what Tomchi finds, and science agrees, if you Google it, you can find there is scientific finding that the life of electron is somewhere in the order of 6 into 10 to the power of 27 or 33. Here, the current life of this universe is 10 power 9, that is in billions of years. That is 10 power 27. That means billion times you can recycle this earth. If it is 14 billion years old, even if it is double, 28 billion years old, still billion times with the same electrons, protons. If the intelligence, if there is a pattern, this pattern can be recycled not once or twice. That's why in our tradition, there is this belief that there have been many Anjaneyas, many Ramas, and that cycle is going on. So he says that practically it is a degree of immortality in cyclical creation that we cannot comprehend. It is mind blowing. But then, what does the even Dvaita Vedanta, what does it teach? It teaches that by surrender, you can step out of that cycle. You can come to the mukti dimension where one's relationship with the cycle is no more one of bondage. Now, the Mandukya Upanishad makes this less complicated. And Upadesha means that bringing what appears complicated and mind-boggling to easier but realistic dimension and very near to the sadhaka, so that sadhana is possible. If the problem is presented in mind-boggling terms, the sadhaka may not even begin the sadhana. And Mandukya makes it really simple by saying, how many ever cycles, how many ever yugantaras the cycle may be going on, it is still contained in the waking, dream, and deep sleep experiences. If one, as a jiva, understands one's experiences in waking, dream, and deep sleep, and goes to the turiya mentioned in the Upanishad, which is the state, which is the adhara to the three states, and which is beyond the three states. So it is both turiya and turiyatita. Within this human experience of a 24-hour cycle of waking, dream, and deep sleep, one can understand and transcend the cyclical nature of samsara, which, if you look at it grossly, may be running to billions of years and mind-boggling in nature. So the waking, dream, and deep sleep, the shlokas, how they have been laid out is that the experiencer, the Atman, for the moment, let us call him as the experiencer in the Turiya state, that nature will vanish. But then the work begins with creating the Atma to be having four states or four padas. One is the waking, one is the dream, another is the deep sleep, and the fourth is the turiya. Now, the beauty is that in the 12 verses and in the original Upanishad, we won't find a difference between the Jiva and the Ishwara. But then in Karika and Bhashya, with their support, we understand the import of leaving it unexplained. The difference between Ishvara and Jiva untouched in the main body, the Karika and the Bhashya clarify that that could refer to the individual Jiva or to the Ishvara. And there is a lot of clarity in the Karika. So what exactly is the combined content of the Upanishad? It is that in the waking state, the individual Jiva is given some upadhis and is called as Vishwa. And in the waking state, the Ishvara, the one who is permeating all the sensory beings. So what is waking state? Waking state is the reality perceived through the five jnanendriyas, and as a reaction to the information received, how we use karmendriyas, that is the whole play of the waking state. And what they have discovered, what is suggested in the Upanishad is that there is one consciousness that permeates the individual body, and there is one consciousness which permeates the whole sensory existence. The sensory world itself is permeated by the Ishvara. Pindam meviya nadane, Brahmandam meviya nadanai. The unity between Jivatva and Ishwaratva is indicated in the verses on Ramana Sadguru. There is a work called Ramana Sadguru. In that, the same spirit that permeates the body is also that which permeates the whole cosmos. Is the statement Pinda, the spirit that permeates the Pindam, is the same spirit that permeates the Brahmanda. So we get a sense of what is there in the waking state definition in Mandukya Upanishad, that the individual permeates the body and is called as Vishwa. He feels trapped inside the body and trapped inside the sensory cosmos, whereas Ishwara has nothing outside of him in the sensory. There is no name you can give to the Ishvara, because Nama can be given only if someone outside is there to perceive. There is nothing outside of Ishvara, but for our sake, the Upanishad calls with the Karika as Ishvara there is in Viraat Swarupa. To give us a clarity, it is the darshana that Arjuna gets, the Viraat Swarupa, the darshana that is given in the Duryodhana Sabha, and Duryodhana is treated appropriately to his arrogance, and that is said to be the same darshana that is given to Yashoda inside the mouth of Sri Krishna. That is, the whole sensory world is permeated by that Ishvara, and he is called as Virat. The dream universe, the dream cosmos, and the dream individual are similarly having upadhis, and the dream individual is called as Taijasa, or the one tenanting the subtle body, and his experiences are subtle, thought-like forms, and there the individual is called as Taijasa, and the Ishvara there in the Sukshma is called as Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha, as the very name indicates, is the womb or the source from which whole subtle and gross universes arise. The whole subtle planes and the gross universe, of which Virat Swarupa is the permeating entity, both are permeated by Hiranyagarbha I. And in deep sleep, the individual is called as Prajna, and the Ishvara is Ishvara. This is the three states that is mentioned in the Mandukya Upanishad. In the Turiya state, the Atman is free of all these three states which are cyclical in nature, and where the individual is having the nature as waking eye, dreaming eye, deep sleep eye, individually called as Vishwa, Taijasa, and Prajna. And the reality of the Turiya is that it transcends the waking state, dream state, and deep sleep state, and it transcends the three Atmas as waking eye, dream eye, and deep sleep eye. They also vanish into non-existence when the Turiya is the Anubhava. In the transcendental state of Turiya, all these three individuals, they go into non-existence, they are non-self. This is the general teachings that we will find with lot of clarifications in terms of snake and rope, pot and clay, and all those examples. If you go into any of the scriptures published by Ramakrishna Ashram, or nowadays even in YouTube, you will find lectures delineating the contents of the Upanishad. Where do we bring in the Ulladu Narpadu? For this is what we are interested in. That we saw that in the waking state, the entire sensory cosmos is permeated by one spirit called the Virat. Now, what do we do in self-enquiry? How does the Virat come to our support in self-enquiry? Or are we just doing self-enquiry as the individual only? Is the Hiranyagarbha I coming to our support in self-enquiry? Or are we doing self-enquiry as the old Nanda Kumar only? Is the Ishwara of the deep sleep and the Turiya self, are they coming to our support in self-enquiry? Or is the old Nanda Kumar only struggling and wading through with whatever resources was at his disposal? This is the general enquiry we are making. We are slowly going into the area, so we get a feel of it as we go in, and we understand how Ulladhu Narpadu brings the support of Viraat, the support of Hiranyagarbha, and the support of Ishwara I to the sadhaka. That is what we are going to see. And first, let us take the verses in Ulladhu Narpadu, which connect the Viraat I to self-enquiry. A clue to this is available in Upadesha Saram, where in verse 11, Ramana teaches that Vayurodhanal liyate mana jalapakshiva rodha sadhana. Vayurodhanal liyate mana jalapakshiva rodha sadhana. Chittavayava chitkriyayutaha shakayordvayi shakti mulaka. That means in the first 10 verses in Upadesha Saram, Ramana would have taken us through karma and bhakti and brought us to self-enquiry in verses 9 and 10. 8, 9 and 10. From Anya Bhava in meditation, he would have brought us to Ananya Bhava of Atma Vichara and taken us to Hritsale Manaha. Interestingly, in 11 to 15, no reference to karma or bhakti, directly Vayurodhana liyate manaha. Now, what is the finding there? Without the breath, can we do any karmendriya action? Or even the jnanendriya inputs, as far as the sensory world is concerned, could we have without the breath? It's not possible. Therefore, if you surrender the breath, or if you merely observe the breath as Ishvara allows you to breathe, then we have come to touch the Viraat Swarupa of Ishvara. That is the indication there that if you hold on to the one breather inside all breathing entities, like the animals and the plants, all breathing entities, the mere observation of breath suggested by Bhagavan is that we are holding on to who is breathing. Whether you are breathing in carbon dioxide and letting out oxygen as plants do, or breathing in oxygen and letting out carbon dioxide as the animals do, it doesn't matter. So far as there is the input and output in terms of air, we call them that there is one breathing entity. And the interesting point about this breathing entity, even as a jiva, is that what comes in as a mixture of predominantly oxygen, nitrogen, and other gases is taken in for oxygen content, but in the nostrils, it is called as mixture of various gases with primary seeking of oxygen. The moment it enters, it is called as prana. That is when even the jiva consciousness, remember, the jiva is called as the Vishwa, who is trapped inside the body, still conscious entity, but not permeating the entire sensory creation as the Viraat, only the jiva. But see the nature of consciousness, even as a jiva, what was merely atoms of oxygen outside becomes prana the moment it enters in. There are various grades of prana, vyana, apana, udana, samana, and even in certain branches of Vedanta, the life, the consciousness itself will be called as mukhya prana. Now that means you can treat prana from varying degrees of subtlety. But the key point we have to see here is that what was called as air up to the nostrils becomes prana, and similarly, what is called as prana when exhaled up to this point, the moment it goes out, it's called as carbon dioxide. Therefore, what is the nature of consciousness? The consciousness is able to permeate the atoms. That means even a limited consciousness like the jiva, it permeates. It is the Vishnu. It is having the Vishnutva as far as the air within this zone is concerned. As far as the calcium and other minerals and metals inside this zone is concerned. So, the whole content of time and space inside this form is permeated by consciousness. The jiva is the Vishnu of this limited area. Who is the one who is permeating the whole sensory area? It is the Viraat Swarupa. So, when you observe merely who is the breather, always we should remember that in the Panchakosha Tattva, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha, the persona or in the Anandamaya Kosha permeates the other four koshas. For instance, the Vaikunta is said to be permeated by Vishnu's persona. Kailasa is said to be permeated by Shivanama or the Shiva's persona. And the Satyaloka is similarly said to be permeated by the persona of Brahma. Now, this being the case that the persona permeates the other koshas, when we observe the breath with the enquiry as to who is the one breather, who is breathing, we are coming to hold the Viraat. We are coming to hold the Viraat of the waking state. Our enquiry takes the support of Viraat, and with the support of Viraat, we are going to turn to Hiranyagarbha. We are going to turn to observe the thoughts, as Hiranyagarbha is the Adhara for the waking state. Without the mind, there is no waking, there is no dream. Therefore, the Hiranyagarbha is more subtler and the source of both waking state and dream state. We collapse the waking state into dream state by understanding what is this whole Virat. That is why Bhagavan would say in Upadeshasaram, Vayurodana liyate manaha jala pakshiva rodasadanam chittavayava chitkriyayutaha shakayordvai shakti mulaka laya vinashane ubhayarodane layagatam punat bhavati nomritam prana bandhana lena manasam. The mind that has been relatively quieted with prana bandhana, eka chintana. Take that mind to the Hiranyagarbha eye. With the eye that has now come to Virat eye by surrender of all things sensory. Now in the Hiranyagarbha area, come to Eka Chintana. Hold the one eye that is the source of all thoughts. Nashtamanaso utkrishta yoginaha krityamastikim swastitim yataha. You come to the Turiya state in Upadeshasaram, verse 11 to 15. Traveling through Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and to the Ishwara, coming to Turiya, beyond the three states. Krityamastikim swastitim yataha is how Upadeshasaram leads us through Mandukya and brings us to Turiya, with the understanding that we are taking the support of Virat and the support of Hiranyagarbha. It may appear that something very huge is being suggested, but we all know the story of the girl who took the umbrella. There is this story that there is a village which is having drought for a few years now, and the lakes have run dry, and the temple or the church where they all gather, all the villagers gather, the priest suggests that let us all do a joint prayer on the banks, on the bund of the on the lake, so that we get rain. And they all join to come to the prayer. It is scorching, the sun is scorching, and amongst all the participants in that prayer, one small girl alone brings an umbrella. And it is said that it rained at the end of the prayer just because she brought the umbrella. That simplicity of faith, it lets us go the whole of the sensory area and the thought area, and it is not as complicated as we may think it is, as the intellect may make it. The same turning inward will be facilitated if we understand the Bhakti Marga, that all we are doing is surrendering to the one energy which is anyway connecting that whole area, where even modern scientists are coming to feel that everything is connected. What is it that connects? The Viraat connects the whole of the waking state, Hiranyagarbha connects the whole of dream state, and Ishwara is Ishwara. Nothing to connect. Only the self is shining as I. That is why Bhagavan would tell through the writer called Devraj Budliya. There is a work called Day by Day with Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. There he would say, the suggestion would be, don't seek to hold the body of Ishvara, which is the cosmos. Don't even seek to hold the mind of Ishvara, which is the rules by which the material and the relative consciousness are brought together. But only go for the self of Ishvara. Only go for Ishvara's Atma, which is not different from the self of all, would be his suggestion. Having seen how Upadeshasaram brings us in a general way to hold the Viraat and Hiranyagarbha, let us go in a little bit more detail how Bhagavan makes us hold the Viraat and the Hiranyagarbha in self-enquiry through the verses of Ulladhu. In Ulladhu, the layout itself is very interesting. The whole layout of the work is one of the ways in which we can look at the work. This recombining of the verses. There are many ways in which those who are doing sadhana do. And this is one of the ways in which you can look at the body of Ulladhu. There are 2 Mangalam shlokas. There are 40 verses. The first 4 verses is the complete work. The first verse is about the self, second verse is about Ishvara, third verse is about the world, and fourth verse is how the root problem is the ego. If the ego is quelled, everything is solved. First 4 verses, the whole work is covered. Verses 5, 6, 7 deal with, in connection with Mandukya, it deal with how to hold the Viraat and go to Turiya. From Viraat to Turiya. 5, 6, 7. 8 to 22, verses 8 to 22 in Ulladhu is how to hold the Hiranyagarbha and go to Turiya. Verses 23, 24, 25, 26 also, I think, 4 verses are how holding the Atma, holding the I. If you start and do the enquiry, you will get Viraat on the way as support. You will get Hiranyagarbha on the way of support. Both of them will take you to Ishvara of deep sleep, who will take you to Turiya given in the Upanishad. Is the content in 23, 24, 25, 26, where self-enquiry, Bhagavan says, start off. You may get still personal thoughts. You may not be able to get the thoughts relating to what it is that connects everything in the waking state. Doesn't matter. But you start the enquiry with who am I, for whom is this thought. It may be a day-to-day living thought for hours today. Doesn't matter. You go through it, you will get to these thoughts. These thoughts which rishis and munis have for our guidance placed together in these verses. And we will take the support of Viraat, Hiranyagarbha, and the Ishvara of deep sleep. And it is in culmination of they're taking the jiva or the jiva in Sayujya with them, that Turiya is reached. This whole journey is easily understood when we read the Ulladu Narpadu with Mandukya. The verses 1, 2, 3, 4 is a whole work. 5, 6, 7 is how we reach the Viraat. The support of Viraat is automatically taken, is automatically given, because that is the nature. And directly you can go to Turiya from there in 5, 6, 7. 8 to 22, Hiranyagarbha I. The support of Hiranyagarbha I is taken. Ishwara and Turiya come in. In verses 23, 24, 25, 26, you have, don't worry about Viraat and Hiranyagarbha. You start where you are. Start with, for whom is this thought? Naturally, you will come to hold the eye of Viraat Ishwara. You will hold the eye and identify with the eye of Hiranyagarbha Ishwara, and you will realize that this support is what is completing the journey. So the whole Bhakti Marga becomes opened up for us. That is what they have been telling in surrender, that Ishvara's presence is real. So far as I am identified with sensory body, there is Brahmandam, maybe a Virat. So far as I am identified with the subtle body, there is the Hiranyagarbha I. And that support will automatically come when we do the who am I. A little bit of going into these verses, 5, 6, 7. In the verse number 5, Bhagavan says that without a body has anyone experienced the world. The body is made of pancha kosha. Therefore, all the 5 koshas are coming within the term body. Without a body has anyone experienced the world. So the moment you detach yourself from the upadhi called body, you will go to the consciousness that transcends the worlds, whatever the body may be. We should understand here for a moment. We can take a breather and see that the Panchakoshas are practically divided into 3 bodies. The Panchakoshas are Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. But these are coalesced into 3 bodies, and in one of the explanations, Bhagavan clarifies that Annamaya Kosha is the Sthula Sharira and Anandamaya Kosha is the causal body. The rest of the 3, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya, you can conveniently combine as the Sukshma Sharira. So, the Sthula Sharira is the Annamaya Kosha, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya together they form the subtle body, and the Anandamaya is the causal body, where in deep sleep the subject and the objective samsara are both present in seed form. Then in the waking state, again they come into gross, in dream in subtle, and in deep sleep, the subject-object division is present as seed to be blown up in the waking state. Now, why is this important to know that the Panchakoshas are looked at as 3 bodies? Because we understand to cross Virat, all we have to do is hold the breath or observe the breath. To cross or surrender to Virat, the sensory activities, the Bhagavan's Upadesham in verse number 11 of observing the prana and Leena Manasam, because prana, mano, and vijnana are together. Prana is the link between Annamaya and Manomaya. That's why when you observe prana, all the thoughts related to the Indriyas and some of the thoughts related to Manas, which generate emotions, they will quieten down. But the Vijnanamaya thoughts, the prana may not be able to control or quieten. That is where the Atma Vichara will have to start. The observation of breath will bring leenate or quietness to the mind, because the Indriya related thoughts will come down. Many of the Manomaya related thoughts which lead to emotions, which need the strength of prana, that will come down. But then the other thoughts, abstract thoughts, will remain, which will have to be worked out with self-inquiry. So, in this verse, Udalandri Unda Ulagam, without an Annamaya body, there is no there is no physical world or Viraat. Without a Sukshma Sharira, there is no Manomaya or Hiranyagarbha. Without the causal body, there is no Ishwara of deep sleep. But Ishwara as Turiya. The Turiya Atma, where the Ishwara name is not used, it is independent. The self is completely na antah prajnam, na bahik prajnam. There is no bahik prajnam of the waking state. There is no antah prajnam of the dream. And few more are rejected. And that consciousness is revealed in all its independence in its spurana and self-luminous nature. That is where the Turiya comes in. But in verse number 5, we are taken from body, from the three bodies, Stula, Sukshma and Karana, directly to Turiya. In 6 and 7, one more step is given to go hold the Viraat and go to Turiya. The steps are, Ramana points out that this world is nothing but five senses. The five senses, the forms of five senses is the world, and the five senses are sensed by the sense perception. The pori, he says, the sense perception are electrochemical impulses, which to which the senses are converted into insight. And those electrochemical impulses called the sense perception is looked at by one mind, he says. That the world is nothing but sensory form and the senses are perceived through one mind. Therefore, the entire world is manomayam tat bhuvanam vadamaha. That actually it is not a gross waking state. It is already in Hiranyagarbha only. It is manomayam tat bhuvanam vadamaha. That is why Bhagavan would say, treat the waking state as a dream. Treat the world like a dream. That is why we sit for self-enquiry, turning the attention inward. Interestingly, modern physics has come to this point. There is a video by Carlos Rivoli. He says this is the most astounding finding in physics, that whatever you see through the eyes can only be as that object is in the past. The sun you see is as the sun is or was 8 minutes ago. Because the sunlight takes 8 minutes to come to your eye. What you are seeing as sun now is not the sun now. It is sun as it was 8 minutes ago. So the words you are hearing are not what they actually are now. They are as they were released some nanoseconds ago. That is why the speech is called as revelatory chit, and your listening is called as knowing chit. The Nama and Rupa of the world in Dakshinamurti Stotram, they are called as, they are revelatory chit. They have Sat and Chit, because Sat and Chit permeate everything. But the Nama and Rupa have the ability to reveal, but not to know. And without a knowing chit, they are incomplete. Therefore, the knowing chit is given precedence over the revelatory chit. That's why my speech appeals to your knowing chit. And the knowing chit takes it inward. All other thoughts are known by the I thought. So Bhagavan says, the other thoughts are all revelatory chit. And the I thought has the knowing chit. Take it to the source to go to Turiya. Once again, from Viraat to Hiranyagarbha to the Turiya. The verse number 5 is about body to Turiya. 6 and 7 is about how from body you can come to senses, senses to the mind, Hiranyagarbha, and from there to the unchanging awareness which is mentioned in 7. Verses 8 to 22 is directly about Hiranyagarbha. May I know how much time we have? Is it time?
We have another 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Now we come to verses 8 to 22, where I said Bhagavan is going to take us to the support of Hiranyagarbha eye. Already we found that the waking state eye, by observing breath, we get to the thoughts. And when we start letting go of thoughts, the Viraat, by surrender to him, has allowed us in one sense to come to his Hiranyagarbha eye. You can understand that Jnana Marga, it assumes Bhakti Marga because it has let go of the sensory area. Now, unless there is surrender there, or unless there is understanding of surrender there, or it is actualized in Vichara, how is letting go going to be possible? Therefore, the Jnana Marga comes with the understanding of Bhakti Marga, that we are like that child who took the umbrella. As far as the sensory area is concerned, unless that kind of simplicity is there, we won't be able to turn into the Hiranyagarbha and understand that the Hiranyagarbha eye will take us to the Ishwara. Now, how is that journey described by Bhagavan? Very interesting. In verse number 9, Ramana says that the whole of dyads and triads. Dyads, you can say right and wrong, good and bad, good and evil. You can recall the Western philosopher Descartes' statement here that the whole creation may be the creation of a good force or of an evil force. But I am the one who is thinking like this. Therefore, I am alone is real. The world, or that it is covered by good energy or by bad energy, are all unreal, are all not the truth. That I am the one who is present, and originating thoughts about it, that alone is the truth. He would have come from that direction. And Bhagavan, when he said about this, he will say, why do we need the support of the world or about thought to know that I am? Each one of us, when we are asked the question, do you exist? Do we need any of those supports? Each one of us already will come to the statement or remark, I exist, without the support of the world or thought. Therefore, Bhagavan will say, where is the need to say that because I think I am? He could have directly said, I am. But then we see the journey. We see that the philosopher has brought the whole creation in his ambit. That means he is ready to look at the Viraat Swarupa. The whole of Viraat Swarupa of the sensory perception could be permeated by a good energy or a bad energy, he says. That means, and I'm not going to treat either as truth. It could be this or it could be that. But that I am is the lone truth, is what he would have come. And Ramana would point out in verse number 9, Irattaigal Muppodigal, the dyads and triads arise holding on to one. Now, if you hold that one, it will take you beyond the dyads and triads, and such a one will never get disturbed by anything in the sensory world or in the mental world, is the conclusion of that verse. But then what is the dyad? Let's say good and evil. Triads, seer seeing seen, covering the Viraat, knower knowing known, covering Hiranyagarbha. Both are covered in that verse. That means when we are doing self-enquiry, let's say some of the personal days thoughts, like why the prayers have been kept, Gayatri Japa has to be done 3 times in a day, or the prayers have to be done at appointed times, is that the mental reactions from the sensory world can be dissolved in the mind only, in the Hiranyagarbha only. So they have planned and given us those schedules where whatever is the interaction and reaction in the interregnum are all washed away in those prayers. Now we can understand that and come here when we do self-enquiry, what happens? The whole area of the triads of seer seeing seen concerning Viraat, knower knowing known concerning Hiranyagarbha, arise holding on to one, arise holding on to the Hiranyagarbha. So when we start our self-enquiry, suppose some thoughts about the day have come, wash it off. For whom is this thought? Then when we see, oh, same old bad thoughts are coming, or not bad, that is a good thought. What Bhagavan is suggesting, and this is referred to in Dridrishya Viveka as the Guru's gift to the disciple. The Guru's gift to the disciple is to take the disciple from Drishya Anuvida Samadhi to Shabda Anuvida Samadhi. What is Drishya Anuvida Samadhi? When thoughts are multiple, when thoughts are varied, and from those varied thoughts, you have to hold the eye. That is called as Drishya Anuvida Samadhi. When those thoughts are just reduced to this good and bad, or seer seeing seen, knower knowing known. I mean, the whole area of diverse thoughts is now you are looking at it only as the division as good and bad. That is the gift of the Guru. He says this is from multiplicity, the Guru reduces it to just two for us and helps us to come to Shabda Anuvida. Just the two, for whom is the raising of good and bad. For whom is the knower knowing known. There you are holding the Hiranyagarbha eye, because only from that eye, the whole area of seer seeing seen and the Viraat and the whole area of knower knowing known or the thoughts, they arise. That is verse number 9. Verse number 10, 11, 12, 13. Obviously, the work is on Jnana Marga. So the duality dyad taken up is Jnana and Ajnana, knowledge and ignorance. And beautifully, Bhagavan presents how the Hiranyagarbha can be held. He says that all the thoughts can be divided into just two. As either the thought can be a statement or knowledge, or it can be a doubt or a question mark or ignorance. So the whole area of thought can be a thought of knowledge, objective knowledge, or objective ignorance. So he has covered the whole area of thoughts. When he is going to take us to that eye, it is going to be the Hiranyagarbha eye. Now, he says, the whole area of knowledge and ignorance arise together. That there is no knowledge without ignorance and there is no ignorance without knowledge. If you put the timeline, you can easily understand that we say we are aware of something, commerce, subject, because I was not educated in that up to 12. Suddenly introduced after 12, become course. I say I have knowledge of commerce. So without that earlier ignorance, there is no knowledge. And only after knowing that such a subject is there and having gathered its knowledge, I am aware that there was always that existence of ignorance. So the knowledge and ignorance in the objective area is always a dyad and rises together. Both of this, Arivu Ariyamai, Ariyamayindri Arivindram, Arivindri Ariyamayindram, for whom is the knowledge and ignorance, if you ask, both Arivu and Ariyamai will be cut asunder. So you hold the Hiranyagarbha eye and Hiranyagarbha eye consumes the knowledge and ignorance. The next verse, Arivurum Tannayariyad, without knowing you, who is the form of knowledge, to say that you have objective knowledge of something or objective ignorance of something is both ignorance, he says. All objective knowledge is permeated by ignorance of your own self. You are not knowing yourself. So that entire area of objectivity, objective knowledge, he says, is ignorance, and it is imbued with not knowing yourself. So, Arivurum Tannai Ariyadu, Ayale Arivadu, Ariyamai Andri Arivu, Arivayar Kadara Tannai Ariya. That which is the Adara for this self-ignorance and the objective ignorance. If you hold that, then this will be cut asunder. Holding Hiranyagarbha eye, cross the Hiranyagarbha content. Similarly, he will take us through some more verses in that. You come to another verse called as regarding personas. Without a first person, there is no second and third person. If you hold the truth of the first person will vanish, leaving the third and second and third person also non-existent, and you will be taken to Turiya. That is a profound verse on holding the Hiranyagarbha eye, because what is the first person holding on to which every other persona is second and third person. Even if you get thought of Vishnu, who is permeating the Vaikunta, Shiva, who is permeating the Kailasa, and Brahma, who is permeating the the Satyaloka, Bhagavan is saying there, they all arise, including Bhagavan. The thought of Ramana, it arises holding on to one eye. It is holding on to the Hiranyagarbha I, that all second and third persons arise. You don't hold even me, he says. Don't even hold Ramana, who has revealed the truth of the three Mummurtis. Don't even hold me. Hold that I from which my and the other three personas arise, the second and third. What can that I be except the Hiranyagarbha I? So when you are doing the self-enquiry, when thought of any persona comes, with the clarity that the pre-existing Hiranyagarbha I is what is allowing you. And the strength of silence is given by the pre-existing presence of Ishwara there is what allows for sadhana to reach to its culmination, where that Hiranyagarbha I will take you to the Ishwara of deep sleep. Now, there is one more verse there in that content, that 8 to 22 you can meditate. One more I would like to say, Namandri Nadedu Nadedu, the whole area of time and space arise holding on to the Hiranyagarbha I. So whenever you feel that I am in Bangalore, let's say, what will our thought be? I am not in such a pilgrimage place. I would have meditated much better there. Let's say that is a thought. Ramana says, for whom is this thought about that pilgrimage place and Bangalore? Without a self-attentive eye, there is no time, there is no place. Now, from which eye can the whole area of time and space come? And what are you consuming? Why is Shiva sitting like that? He has consumed the whole Viraat Swarupa and he has consumed the whole Hiranyagarbha and is in Turiya. That is why he is not that pure form that is presented. He is the Turiya, the consciousness which has gone beyond waking dream and deep sleep. And the whole area of time and space in self-enquiry, when one goes there, when one feels, and when meditating on Ulladhanarpadu and Mandukya come together, you realize that it is the Hiranyagarbha I you are holding. That is what is giving strength to the silence. There is no other thought that can come out of it, because in fact, that Hiranyagarbha I is you. Tat Tattvam Asi, that is what you are, and that is automatically taken to the reality of Ishwara as the Spurana in deep sleep, in Pralaya, without the support of the Stula and Sukshma. The Ishwara is present as I. Pralaya is not down in timeline, it is right now and here. And the Ishwara is transcending that here and now as the I. And without any reference to Pralaya or Srishti, when we see the I independent of Pralaya and Srishti, that is where the Turiya Sthiti, as the Adhara for all our sadhana, the Turiya Sthiti is experienced. And that Turiya itself is independent of all these, the Viraat and the Hiranyagarbha and the Lokas and the individuals there. And that alone you can be. What else can you be? That is the only truth. If that is as, not if, as that is the only truth, what else can you be? And Tattvamasi is the only thing to be shared in the satsang. That you are, that thou art, whatever else you are identifying with, that you are not. And naturally, the consciousness has to go towards that. Bhagavan says, like the waters all return to the ocean, we have to come to the Turiya state. There is no other way. We might as well go there consciously and with the practice of Atma Vicharam, with meditating on Ulladhanarpadu Upadeshasaram and Mandukya Upanishad. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.